My name is Yvonne Vizzier-Thaxton, and I most recently was the director of the Center for Food Animal Wellbeing at the University of Arkansas, but I retired at the end of the year. And as far as how long I've been in PSA, I did some thinking about that, and it's been about 40 years. I don't remember exactly the year that I started, but it's right around 40 years. I grew up in a little town in North Mississippi, Holly Springs. It was fun. We played all over town. Back then it was easy. We had a town full of mamas. Indeed, it took a village. Nobody dared do anything wrong because it would be at our mom's ear before we got home. But it was a great experience. One of our neighbors was a florist, and she needed help on Saturday morning because she always had a lot of work to do. So she asked Mama if she could offer me a job cleaning out her back room on Saturday morning. So my first paying job, I was 11 years old, and I was the janitor and a florist and the occasional deliverer of funeral wreaths, because the funeral home was just across the street. It was a great experience, and later in life, it looked really good when I could put how many years experience I'd had on my resume. Dad was an electrical engineer, an old school electrical engineer. He had a really exciting life. And I was thinking about, he started in southern Arkansas driving a Model T Ford at 10 years old. And I asked him when he got his first driver's license. He said he thought when he went to the Navy. He worked on the Mississippi River on barges. And then he met Mama in a furniture store. Went to World War II, came back, and for him, he was the first family member to go to university. Went to the University of Arkansas on the GI Bill. I was born about 10 months after he got home. And so we moved to Arkansas when I was 3 months old and left when I was 3. And we moved from Fayetteville to Mountain Home, Arkansas, subsequently to Dallas. Daddy was with the Corps of Engineers. And Mom had been working on a degree in, back then, home economics, which later became art, which later segued into nursing. Both of them ended up with, well, Mom had a major in nursing and a minor in art. If she wasn't interesting, I don't know what would be. That's got to be a combination. And Daddy went and got an MBA later, and he ended up working in the space program in Huntsville, Alabama. So quite a shift. And then he retired from that, and he came to work with us at Marshall Durbin for about 5 more years to help with some set up a engineering department for the company. I have 3 brothers. 2 went to the Naval Academy. One's a retired Marine, one's a retired Navy captain. And the 3rd brother went to Vanderbilt, and he's a computer genius and my best resource. He's my IT man. As I said earlier, I got married when I was in my 40s, and married J. Paul Thaxton, who was a colleague in a way. And I have subsequently adopted his daughter, Paige. She has 4 children, so I've got a lot of grandbabies to play with, and they live in the Jackson area, which is where I am now. I fell in love with bacteria when I was in the 8th grade. My biology teacher was fantastic, and he got me interested in that. And that's all I ever wanted to do. And at that point in time, when I graduated from high school, we lived in Huntsville, Alabama, had been there for just 2 years. And Mississippi was still home to me. It was a school in Mississippi, a girls' school. It was a small school, and I really wanted to go to a smaller school. Mississippi University for Women. It was Mississippi State College for Women back then. And they offered a degree in bacteriology. So that's what I did, and I stayed there to finish my master's degree. When I graduated, I had 2 job offers. One for the CDC in Atlanta, running salmonella on samples, and one for a company in Mississippi, MFC Services, which no longer exists, running salmonella on pasteurized egg products. Now, the ones the CDC paid $500 a month, and the one in Jackson, Mississippi paid $525 a month. I thought about it a little while, and since they were about the same position, and I knew even at the age of 23 it's going to cost less to live in Jackson than Atlanta, and they were paying me more, I took that job and landed in an industry I didn't even know existed. It's a laboratory bench microbiologist for about 18 months, and then two men, one who did breeder operations and one broiler operations, said they thought maybe they needed some help out in the field. They were having problems with some baby chicks. So they took me to a Leghorn hatchery to begin to see the system. And I'm going to tell you, when they pulled out that first tray of all those little baby chicks, I was in love. And so I've been working with chickens ever since. My laboratory was a part of a small division. And as other people left, I just assumed other jobs. Not only did I gain experience, it certainly helped everybody's attitude towards me as an employee. And because of some events at MFC, Durban approached me about possibly coming to work for them and setting up an analytical laboratory. And eventually I did exactly that. In fact, I started there in 1974 and stayed for 22 years. Mr. Durban was a great mentor, and he just said, you know, Yvonne, if you're going to go forward in this, you need the credentials to back it up. He basically insisted that I return to school and get a PhD. Mr. Durban also wanted me to have accounting experience or know something about it so I could move forward in the company. So I took some accounting courses. It's just been a wide variety of things, all of which have really been useful throughout my career. I find this memory at MFC. I made some wonderful friends there, but it was just how much opportunity I had to learn and grow. And then when I went to work for Marshall Durban, the company gave me again many opportunities. And because of those opportunities, I was able to move forward. But as I said, I had a wide range of experiences in education, and I can't stress enough how important that is. The work I'm most proud of is easy to talk about. It's been recent work with the low atmospheric stunning slaughter system for poultry. I've been working with a small company out of Kosciuszko, Mississippi for almost 12 years now, working on this project. And it has the potential benefit of improving the lives of millions of broiler birds. I retired from industry, and not too many years after I got married later in life, and the faculty at Mississippi State several of the members had gotten older, and they were starting to look for replacement. And the department head called me and said, my husband was already on the faculty up there. So the department head called me and said, why don't you consider coming up here and living with J. Paul full time? At that point in time, we were only together on weekends, as he stayed in Starkville during the week teaching. I was in Jackson. So I said, well, I don't know whether I could teach or whether do research seemed like a good idea, but I said, I'll think about it. Anyway, I applied for the position, and I got hired, and it turned out I loved teaching. That was my favorite aspect of being there. But my husband died during that, sometime after that, and my mother and father were getting elderly, and my mother had Alzheimer's. There were a lot going on, so my life had changed dramatically. And they offered me an early retirement package offered to the university-wide. So I decided to take it, and so I retired and stayed home almost a whole year. And the University of Arkansas called me. They had this new position, and they said somebody senior. I figured they meant somebody old. But they wanted somebody with the experience and had done some media work too, and industry experience. And I was really probably the only viable candidate primarily in poultry. So I talked to my dad, who's an alumni of the University of Arkansas, and he was really excited about it. At that stage, my mom, it didn't make any difference. So Daddy and I packed up. We moved Mama, 3 dogs, and his cat, my 3 dogs and his cat, and we moved to Fayetteville. And I stayed there 6 years, and it was great. It was a gorgeous area to live in. I loved every minute of it. But then suddenly I realized that if I was going to do all the other things I wanted to do, I needed to stop working, because there are only so many years we have for the time to go to the nursing home, and I wanted to use mine doing some different things. So I retired again at the end of this year, and I think this retirement will stick. And somebody to work with, somebody older, and develop a team, somebody that has experience. That has been absolutely the most valuable thing to me, and that was both working in academia and industry, is look to other people. Do not think you're capable of doing it all yourself. Never second guess a decision you made in the past. Don't look backwards. You can't recreate the state of mind you were in at the time nor the situation. So you just have to learn from it and go forward. But don't sit around trying to figure out what you should have done. Just forget it, because you cannot be in that state of mind ever again. And I've tried to live by that, and it really works. Students have taught me that it's good to be excited about life. It's okay to make mistakes, that we need to all get up and go again. Graduate students, questions they've asked have kept me interested in myself, in what I'm doing, what I am personally doing. They challenge me every day. I'm still working with some today, and I love the questions. I love having to stop and think. In fact, I told one yesterday, I've got to do some homework before I can answer that question. It's great. It keeps us growing. I would not be where I am today had it not been for Norman Robinson and Bill Smith. Or I go back even further, had it not been for Coach Williams that taught me biology in the 8th grade. I suppose he gets the credit. And I'd say the next person was Marshall Durbin and his insistence that I go back to school and the opportunities he gave me subsequent to that. The next one I'd have to say was my husband. He was an incredible teacher and a well-known researcher and a very interesting and fun person. But when I agreed to go to Mississippi State, he really taught me, helped mentor me through the teaching, learning to teach. It's not something that comes naturally. I have to mention my kid, who was the one who took me to the University of Arkansas. He had worked with me at Mississippi State before. But throughout my career, there were so many people that helped me. Dr. Bruce Glick from Mississippi State, early on, he was my Google before there was a Google. If I had a question about something, I just called him. Dr. Alan Egger, who later became my major professor when I went back for my PhD. Dr. Egger taught me a lot about working with chickens before I had any chicken education, if you would. And then there were people like Dr. Ken May, Dr. Frank Craig, at the time, both of those were in industry, and others, one with Holly Farms in North Carolina and one with Purdue. And they helped me through a lot of situations, mentored me through them. So the list goes on, but those were significant. And then I have to mention a couple of my collaborators too. Nelson Cox at Russell Research Center. Nelson and I bounced ideas off of each other for many years. Nelson's always encouraged me. And we've done some collaborative research together, and he's done research that I needed when I was in industry. And then the late Dr. Dan Fletcher, who was also a great support and help to me. Well, being named a fellow is completely unexpected, actually, and it is an humbling honor. There are so many people in this group that I have looked to for advice and help over the years. I find it kind of surreal that I'm being included among them. So it will make me look at young people somewhat differently, and other people as they come up. And I see the opportunities there for everyone, and they can be recognized even when you don't expect them to be.